Hey everybody, this is Chase with Priority, and we are super excited to be getting ready for Ragbrai. And if this is your first time, it can be really daunting because it is a long distance, but I promise you it's one of the most easy and accessible long distance rides you can possibly do. And there will be a wide variety of bikes on this ride, from your regular typical bikes to something like a unicycle or a solar powered bike car. So any type of bike is going to be great for Ragbrai, but I have a handful of models if you need a new bike from Priority that we can get you sorted with to get you riding on Ragbrai in style. So in no particular order, we have about 6 bikes that we can go through, and this is the 600X. This is the bike that really started off the adventure line for us, and I think it is one of the perfect bikes to ride Ragbrai with. Ragbrai isn't a mountain bike course. It's mostly going to be on paved asphalt. There is usually an optional gravel day. You don't have to do it, but there sometimes will be times when we'll be going on dirt roads, and this is the bike to go on a dirt road with. The suspension fork might be a little bit much, but it's going to soak up everything on the ride. And with the pinion gearbox, you have 600% gear range, which is a huge gear range. In most areas, you won't ever go below gear 4 or 5. Now, being a born and bred adventure bike, the 600X has a ton of cargo capacity. You can do racks and bags and basically anything you could possibly want to put on a bike on the 600X. Now, we do have a video that we'll link down below with Eddie from our team who did help design this bike, loading it up completely to its maximum potential. And with this bike, and as well as its little brother, the 600, which we'll go over in a little bit, the pinion gearbox not only does it have a huge gear range, it has the best in durability. Basically nothing can go wrong with this gearbox. It has been through the runner multiple times and is just proven time and time again to be bomb-proof and durable. So if you need a bike that will do everything, no questions asked, no compromises, the 600X is 100% the way to go. Next up, we do have the little brother to the 600X, the 600. This is, again, a tried and true bike. It does have wide tires to do any type of off-road and gravel or anything like that, but it really does excel on the pavement, and it does have that same exact pinion gearbox that is going to get you up any hill that we can possibly go on, and it's super, super durable. But the trade-off is it's going to have skinnier, less knobby tires, but are still capable of going on the dirt and off-road, which is tended to be optional on Ragbrai. The other difference is we're not going to have suspension on this fork, but the great thing about the 600 fork is it does have multiple mounting points. So if you wanted to do front racks or any type of cargo cage, it can 100% handle any of those things, and you can load it up pretty much the same way you can load up a 600X. The other difference between the 600 and the 600X will be its frame geometry. Obviously with the 600X, you have that big suspension fork in the front, which is going to pull you up a little bit more, but this one will be a little bit more lean forward and get you in a little bit more of a comfortable and more efficient riding position. And obviously with the 600, you do get the fenders and your dynamo. This isn't necessarily the biggest deal for Ragbrai, but I can assure you, when Iowa has storms, it has some pretty intense storms, so fenders are always welcome. And you'll mostly be riding through the daytime, but having lights that are always on lets you be alerted to everyone around you. You will be constantly surrounded by people, and it's nice to just have a light letting people know you're there, and if you're passing or getting past anything like that, you will be seen. So if you want a straightforward, no-nonsense bike that'll not only crush the street, but the gravel paths if you want to do it, the 600 is an awesome bike to go with. Now, last year, I rode an Apollo on Ragbrai, and it was incredible. This is a speed machine compared to a lot of the other models we will have. It's got the drop bars, so you're going to be a more aerodynamic and sporty position, but it still has the wider gravel tires that are going to be very comfortable to ride and capable of handling any dirt paths that we may hit. For the riding position, while it has the drop bars, you are not going to be pretending like you're on the Tour de France with this. It has a standard gravel geometry that gets you both in an efficient pedaling position and is comfortable to ride for long distances. So this is an awesome solution to go with. On top of that, this is what I would call a really good rackless bike packing bike, which means you don't need lots of racks and fixtures to get stuff on the bike if you want to be self-supported. There are tons of options to do saddlebags, front bags, frame bags, anything like that to get you self-supported with your tent, your food, your repair kit, anything like that, to get you riding self-sufficiently on Ragbrai. Now, last year I rode the stock gearing on this bike, but you can always go down with the front sprocket to a 46 tooth, which will make some of the hills in Iowa a little bit easier to handle. The one thing to remember about Ragbrai is Iowa is not flat. So if you have any concerns about that, going with that smaller sprocket may help you out a ton. Now, one of the places where the Apollo will differ from the 600 and 600X is obviously the gears. There's no gearbox, but we do have an integrated hub in the form of the Shimano Alpine 11 hub. The great thing about this hub is that it's a lot lighter than the Pinion gearbox. We sacrifice a little bit of that gear range, but it's still more than enough to get you through all the hills in Iowa. It's an awesome low maintenance solution, and because of its lightweight properties, the bike is a lot more nimble and more responsive, and you get that performance feeling out of the bike. We also offer this bike in a titanium version. It's gonna be a lot lighter than the 600, and also it's gonna look great, but ride even better. So if performance is your main goal for Ragbrai and you really want to crush everything in Ragbrai and be self-sufficient on the ride, the Apollo is 100% the way to go. Next, we have the Priority 8, which is honestly going to be the most common type of bike that you will see on Ragbrai, with obviously a little bit of a twist. The Sport Hybrid is the most common bike that most people will be riding throughout this. And what you'll probably notice is that the tires on the 8 are going to be a little bit skinnier than the bikes we've talked about. The advantage to this is there's just lower rolling resistance, which translates to getting more done in the day with less energy. The 8 is going to run off of, appropriately, the Shimano Alpine 8 hub. It's another low maintenance, awesome hub from Shimano, but instead of using the drop bar shifters, it'll use the regular trigger shifters you're probably used to on most bikes. The riding position on the 8 is going to be nearly identical to the 600. It's going to be a bike that allows you to sit upright for a little bit more comfort, but if you need to, you can lean forward on it and get a little bit more power out of each pedal stroke. On top of that, you can certainly put a rear rack on this, loaded up with panniers, and also do something like some front-loaded handlebar bags to get a couple more things on your ride if you want to be a little bit more self-supported. But all in all, this is an awesome bike, especially if you're a beginner and aren't sure about riding. This is an awesome bike to go with for Ragbrai. Now, any bike can obviously be a Ragbrai bike, but why not have the most fun bike possible to ride Ragbrai? And that's where the Hot Sauce comes in. The Hot Sauce is a retro style mountain bike with a huge wheelbase and upright bull moose bars, and we have the Shimano Nexus 7 hub in there to get you a pretty wide gear range to get up all the hills. The Hot Sauce can 100% support a rear rack if you want to load it up with panniers and other bags, and because it is retro, in the spirit of retro, we only have one bottle cage on there, but that doesn't mean you can't get creative with things like feed bags and universal bottle mounts to put wherever you want on the bike. And there's tons of clearance in the triangle to put on a frame bag if you need. This bike comes with 27.5 by 2.4 inch tires and will go over essentially everything and will be super comfortable on the road. And when we hit some dirt sections, you will be able to rip through them with no problem. Now, this will be the most limited gear range of all of our bikes. That doesn't mean it doesn't have a wide gear range, but it will still be a little bit of a challenge for some hills in Iowa. So keep that in mind. All in all, this is the bike to have fun with on Ragbrai. It's going to be my personal choice for Ragbrai, and I can't wait to ride this thing this year. Now, riding a bike is obviously fun, but what if it were more fun and a little bit faster? This is where an e-bike comes in, and this is the Priority Current with our range extender. This is going to supercharge your experience, and it's going to make the hills a little bit easier, and it really makes the ride more accessible for more people. E-bikes are becoming more and more common on Ragbrai every single year. The bike is going to be super upright, super comfortable to ride. Anyone can hop on this bike, and it also comes in two configurations, one with the Shimano Nexus system and another with the Enviolo. Both are totally fine for Ragbrai, and if you need some more differences, we have another video in the link down below comparing them. As I mentioned before, we do have the range extender on the bike. Some of the days will exceed 60 to 80 miles, so having a little bit extra juice is great. Now, if you're the type of person that wants to ride at full turbo the entire time, all day. You can go with not only the regular battery with the extender, you can also grab a spare battery to throw in a pannier bag just in case you start running out of juice towards the end of the day. While you can load panniers onto the range extender rack, doing a more self-supported ride can be a little bit more challenging on the Current, as there's just not as many mounting points and not as much support for bags and stuff like that. Luckily, Ragbrai is really accessible to a lot of people. You don't need to do Ragbrai self-supported. A lot of people don't. There are multiple options and multiple avenues to get all of your stuff and everything you need from one town to the next. So all in all, if you want a supercharged, super fast bike, or if you just need a little bit of extra help or you're not as confident that you can do the mileage of Ragbrai, the Current is 100% the way to go for you. There is no wrong bike to choose here. I think that's the one thing to keep in mind. You will see a myriad of bikes all across Ragbrai. That's one of the huge appeals, is just all the cool bikes. We've just got a handful of models that are just super fun to ride for Ragbrai, and you can't go wrong. Whatever you pick, that's the right bike. If you have any questions about any of these bikes, we have a customer service team that's happy to answer any questions about them. And if you have questions about Ragbrai itself, their website is an awesome resource for all of the info on all of the routes. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see all of you at Ragbrai.